The massive alien warship hung in the darkness of space like a predator waiting to strike. Inside the command center, Commander Red stood tall, his scaled skin reflecting the soft blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding him. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the information scrolling across the screens. "Commander, we've detected an unknown vessel at the edge of Sector 7, reported Officer Blue, his clawed hands moving swiftly across the control panel. "It appears to be of human origin." Red's facial spines twitched with interest. The humans were new to interstellar travel, and their presence this far from their territory was unusual. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen lit up with an image of a small, sleek vessel painted white and blue. It wasn't a military ship. Its design suggested scientific or research purposes, but something about it made Red's instincts tingle with warning. "Run a full scan," he commanded. "I want to know everything about that ship." The crew worked quickly, their instruments prodding the human vessel. Minutes passed in tense silence until Officer Green called out from his station. "Commander, you need to see this." Green's voice carried a note of alarm that made everyone on the bridge turn. "Our bioscanners have detected something unusual in their cargo hold." Red moved to Green's station, his tall frame casting a shadow over the smaller alien. The readings on the screen made his spine stand straight up in shock. "These energy readings, they're off the scale. What kind of creature gives off that kind of signature?" The scan showed a large life form in the human ship's cargo area. Its mass and biological readings suggested a predatory creature of significant size and strength. Red's military training kicked in immediately. This had to be a weapon. "Humans," he growled, "always so clever at hiding their true nature. They present themselves as peaceful explorers, but they bring their beasts of war with them." The bridge crew murmured in agreement. Their species had encountered humanity only recently, but stories had already spread about the humans' surprising capabilities. They appeared soft and weak, but they had survived on a planet full of dangerous predators. That alone made them worthy of caution. "Open a communication channel," Red ordered. "Let's see how they try to explain this." The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of the human vessel's bridge. A man in a white uniform stood there, looking surprised but not afraid. "This is Captain Tom of the research vessel Hope. How can we help you?" Red's upper lip curled, exposing sharp teeth. "Captain, you have entered restricted space. Our scans have detected a dangerous biological entity aboard your vessel. Explain yourself immediately." The human captain's face showed confusion. "Biological entity? Oh, you must mean." "Do not attempt to deceive us," Red interrupted. "Our scanners don't lie. You are transporting a beast of significant size and power. This is a clear violation of space transit protocols." To Red's surprise, the human captain actually smiled. "There seems to be a misunderstanding. If you're detecting a large animal, that would be." The transmission suddenly crackled with interference. Red slammed his fist on the console in frustration. "What's happening?" "Solar winds, Commander," Blue reported. "They're interfering with communications. We'll have clear signals again in about 20 minutes. Red's expression darkened. "We don't have 20 minutes. That beast could be deployed at any moment." He turned to address his crew. "Battle stations, prepare boarding parties. Whatever weapon they're hiding, we will deal with it now." As his crew rushed to comply with his orders, Red stared at the human ship on the screen. He had heard stories about Earth's creatures. Massive beasts that could tear apart vehicles, creatures that could survive in the deadliest environments, predators that hunted in packs with terrifying efficiency. Whatever monster the humans had brought with them, he would not let them unleash it in his territory. "Send the message to all ships in the sector," he commanded. "The humans are harboring a beast, and we will stop them before they can use it." Little did Commander Red know that his definition of a beast was about to be seriously challenged, and his understanding of humanity was about to change forever. Inside the research vessel Hope, Captain Tom ran his hand through his graying hair in frustration. The alien warship looming outside their viewport was significantly larger than their small research vessel, and their strange reaction to Max was creating a dangerous situation. "They cut communications before I could explain," he said to his crew. "And now they're charging weapons." Dr. Smith, the ship's lead veterinarian, stood beside the captain with worry etched on her face. "We need to make them understand. Max isn't a weapon. He's a therapy dog who helps us care for the rescued animals." As if hearing his name, Max, the enormous Saint Bernard, padded onto the bridge, his tail wagging happily. The dog's massive frame filled the doorway, and his typical friendly expression was somewhat comical given the tense situation. A string of drool hung from his jowls as he looked hopefully at the crew members. "Not now, boy," Tom said kindly, but Max just sat down, tilted his head, and gave them his best puppy dog eyes. Officer White, monitoring the ship's sensors, called out suddenly, "Captain, they're preparing boarding parties. 3 shuttles are launching from their main hangar." Tom looked at the massive dog sitting peacefully on his bridge and couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Here was the terrible beast the aliens were so worried about, a gentle giant who spent most of his time begging for belly rubs and helping calm stressed animals. "Listen up, everyone," Tom addressed his crew. "We're a research vessel. We don't have weapons or combat training. But we do have something better: the truth. And a very good boy who's never met a stranger he didn't like." The crew nodded, though tension remained high. In the cargo hold below, their precious cargo of rescued Earth animals waited in their climate-controlled habitats, everything from injured birds to small mammals, all being transported to a new conservation facility. "Dr. Smith," Tom turned to the veterinarian, "get Max's therapy vest on him. If they're going to meet our beast, let's at least make him look official." As Dr. Smith led Max away, the ship's computer announced, "Warning. Multiple airlocks being accessed. Boarding parties detected." Tom straightened his uniform. "Remember, everyone, stay calm. These aliens might look intimidating, but they're just scared and confused. Let's show them there's nothing to fear." Dr. Smith returned with Max, now wearing his bright red therapy dog vest covered in patches and credentials. The St. Bernard's tail was wagging even faster now. He loved wearing his vest because it usually meant he was going to meet new friends. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors. The alien boarding party was approaching the bridge, their weapons undoubtedly ready. Tom could hear them checking each room they passed, probably expecting to find some horrible monster lurking in the shadows. "Here we go," Tom muttered. "White, open the bridge doors. Let's greet our guests properly." The doors slid open with a soft hiss. The alien soldiers, covered in natural armor and carrying impressive weapons, froze at the entrance. Their 4 eyes widened simultaneously as they saw Max sitting calmly next to the captain. Max, being Max, immediately perked up at the sight of new people. His tail started thumping against the floor in a steady rhythm of joy. Before anyone could stop him, he let out a friendly woof that echoed through the bridge. The aliens jumped back, weapons raised, but then confusion clearly showed on their reptilian faces. This was not the savage beast they had expected. This creature was sitting there, tongue lolling out, looking at them with pure happiness. "Gentlemen," Tom said calmly, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. This is Max. He's a dog, specifically a St. Bernard. He's our ship's therapy animal and helps us care for the rescued wildlife we're transporting." Max chose that moment to lie down and roll over, exposing his belly in the universal dog signal for "please pet me." A glob of drool hit the floor with a splat. The alien soldiers looked at each other, then at their weapons, then at the huge happy dog asking for belly rubs. Their training hadn't prepared them for this situation, and none of them seemed to know what to do next. The standoff was interrupted by Commander Red's voice coming through their communicators. "Report. Have you found the beast? Is it contained?" One of the soldiers looked at Max, who had started snoring lightly on his back, paws in the air, and replied uncertainly, "Sir, you might want to come see this yourself." Commander Red strode through the corridors of the human vessel with purpose, his personal guard flanking him. The reports from his boarding party had been confusing and unclear, which only heightened his suspicion. As he approached the bridge, he could hear an unusual rhythmic thumping sound. "Stay alert," he warned his guards. This could be a trap. The bridge doors opened, and Red stopped abruptly. His soldiers had formed a loose circle, weapons still drawn but pointed downward, around what appeared to be. Red blinked all 4 eyes in succession, sure he must be seeing things wrong. A massive creature with thick fur was lying on its back in the middle of his elite soldiers, making happy snuffling noises as one brave soldier cautiously poked it with a scanner. The beast's tail was creating the thumping sound Red had heard, beating against the floor in apparent joy. "What is the meaning of this?" Red demanded, causing everyone to snap to attention, except the furry creature, which simply rolled over and looked at him with interest. Captain Tom stepped forward. "Commander, as I was trying to explain earlier, this is Max. He's a Saint Bernard, a breed of dog from Earth. He's our therapy animal and helps care for the other animals we're transporting." Therapy. Animal. Red tested the unfamiliar phrase. "You expect me to believe this creature is for healing?" As if to answer, Max stood up and padded over to Commander Red. The alien leader tensed, but before he could step back, Max sat down in front of him and lifted one enormous paw in greeting. A trick Dr. Smith had taught him. The bridge fell silent. Nobody moved. Even Red's guards seemed unsure whether to interpret this as a threat or not. "He wants to shake hands," Dr. Smith explained gently. "It's how dogs greet friends." "Friends?" Red's facial spines twitched in confusion. "This beast considers us friends." "Max considers everyone a friend until proven otherwise," Tom said with a smile. "It's kind of his whole philosophy." Red stared at the raised paw, then at his own clawed hand. With great hesitation, he reached out. Max's paw was surprisingly soft, and the dog's tail wagging increased to near supersonic speeds. That was all the encouragement Max needed. Before anyone could stop him, he pressed his whole body against Red's legs in a classic Saint Bernard lean, looking up at the alien commander with pure adoration. "He's getting drool on your ceremonial armor, sir," one of Red's guards pointed out helpfully. Indeed, a long string of drool was now decorating Red's previously immaculate uniform. The commander looked down at it, then at Max's hopeful face, and did something that shocked his entire crew. He laughed. "This is your dangerous beast?" Red asked, his voice carrying a note of amusement. "This creature that greets armed boarders with, what did you call it? A shake hands. Would you like to see what he actually does?" Dr. Smith offered. "We're transporting some injured animals, and Max helps keep them calm during treatment." Red nodded, his scientific curiosity overtaking his military suspicion. The group followed Dr. Smith to the medical bay, with Max trotting happily beside the alien commander as if they'd been friends for years. In the medical bay, they watched as Max gently approached a cage containing a nervous rabbit with a splinted leg. The huge dog lay down, making himself as small as possible, and simply stayed there, his calm presence visibly soothing the smaller animal. "Remarkable," Red muttered. "You've taken a creature that our scans show has the capability to be a formidable predator, and it chooses to nurture. That's humanity's gift," Tom explained. "We see potential in all creatures, not just for what they could destroy, but for what they could become. Max could be dangerous if he wanted to be, but he chooses to help instead. Just like humans could use our knowledge for war, but this ship is on a mission of conservation and peace." Red watched as Max continued his gentle supervision of the injured animal. His species had always seen humanity's tendency to befriend other creatures as a weakness, but perhaps they had been missing something important. "I believe," Red said slowly, reaching down to pat Max's head with surprising gentleness, that we have much to learn from each other. Max responded by giving the alien commander's hand a friendly lick, leaving another glob of drool behind, and making all the humans hide their smiles. In the ship's mess hall, Commander Red sat across from Captain Tom, his large frame making the standard human chair creak slightly. Max lay contentedly between them, occasionally lifting his head to accept treats from both human and alien crew members who passed by. "Let me understand this correctly," Red said, gesturing with a clawed hand. "Your species took wild predators, spent thousands of years selectively breeding them, and turned them into companions." "Not just companions," Tom explained, scratching Max behind the ears. "Working partners too. Dogs help us find lost people, detect diseases, guide the blind, protect homes, herd other animals, and even provide emotional support." One of Red's junior officers, who had been hovering nearby with obvious curiosity, finally worked up the courage to approach Max. The St. Bernard immediately rolled over, presenting his belly for rubs. "Careful, Green," Red warned. "That might be a combat stance." "Actually," Dr. Smith interrupted with a smile, "that's a sign of complete trust. He's showing his vulnerable side, saying he feels safe with you." Officer Green hesitantly placed a scaled hand on Max's belly. The dog's back legs started thumping in happiness, causing the alien to jump back in surprise. "That's normal," Tom assured them. "It means he's enjoying it." Red watched the interaction with fascination. "Our scans show that this creature has powerful jaw muscles, sharp teeth, and significant body mass. Yet it chooses to be gentle. Because we asked him to be," Dr. Smith explained. "Dogs want to please their human friends. They're incredibly empathetic and can read our emotions better than most humans can." As if to demonstrate, Max suddenly got up and walked over to Officer Blue, who had been standing quietly in a corner looking troubled. The dog gently pressed against the alien's legs, looking up with concerned eyes. "How did it know?" Blue asked, startled. "I just received news that my clutch mate is ill, but I told no one." "That's what Max does," Dr. Smith said softly. "He can sense when someone is sad or worried. It's why he's so good at his therapy work." Commander Red watched as his usually stoic officer knelt down and began petting Max, the tension visibly leaving his shoulders. Around the mess hall, other aliens were starting to approach, their initial fear replaced by curiosity. "But surely this is just one specially trained animal," Red reasoned. "Not all Earth creatures are like this." Tom pulled out a tablet and showed Red images of various working animals: horses carrying riders, cats curled up with sick children in hospitals, dolphins helping swimmers in distress, elephants carefully moving logs in forests. "Humans have a long history of forming partnerships with other species," Tom explained. "We've learned that kindness and patience usually work better than force." Red's facial spines flattened, a sign of deep thought among his species. "This goes against everything we believed about successful species. We thought that dominating other life forms was the path to evolutionary success." "There's another path," Tom said. "Cooperation, understanding, trust." Max here isn't obedient because he's afraid. He's helpful because he wants to be. Because we've built a relationship based on mutual respect. Max chose that moment to place his large head on Red's lap, looking up with hopeful eyes. One of the human crew members tossed Red a dog treat. "Go ahead," Tom encouraged. "He's been eyeing the treat pouch since you sat down." With uncharacteristic gentleness, Red offered the treat to Max, who took it delicately from his clawed hand. The alien commander's eyes widened at the care the large dog showed in accepting the morsel. "You know," Red said thoughtfully, watching Max return to comforting Officer Blue, "our scientists always said that humans' habit of bonding with other species was a weakness, that it made you vulnerable. But looking at this, perhaps we were wrong." "The universe can be a lonely place," Tom replied. "We found it's better to make friends than enemies. even if those friends happened to drool a bit. As if on cue, Max shook his head, sending drops of drool flying onto several nearby aliens. To everyone's surprise, instead of reacting with disgust, the aliens laughed. Perhaps, Red said, wiping drool from his armor for the third time that day. We have more to learn from humanity than we thought. The ship's alarm suddenly blared to life, its harsh sound making Max bark in surprise. Both human and alien crew members jumped to attention as red warning lights began flashing throughout the mess hall. Commander, Officer Green's voice crackled over the comm system. 3 unmarked vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. They're not responding to hails and are moving into attack formation. Commander Red rose swiftly. Space pirates. They'd been getting bold in this sector lately. He turned to Captain Tom. Your research vessel isn't armed. Stay behind our warship. Before anyone could move, a violent explosion rocked both ships. The pirates had launched their first attack, catching them off guard while their crews were mingled. We're cut off from the bridge, Officer Blue reported, checking his portable scanner. The blast damaged the main corridor. Max was already on his feet, his whole demeanor changed. Gone was the playful therapy dog. In his place stood an alert and focused animal. His nose went up in the air, sniffing intently. He smelled something, Dr. Smith said. Max, what is it, boy? The St. Bernard barked and ran to the mess hall's side door, looking back at the gathered crew members expectantly. He wants us to follow him, Tom explained, quickly getting to his feet. Max has been trained in emergency response too. He might know a safe route. Commander Red hesitated only for a second before nodding to his crew. Follow the Earth Beast, follow Max, he corrected himself. Max led them through secondary corridors, his powerful nose detecting smoke and dangerous fumes before any of the ship's sensors could. When they encountered debris blocking their path, Max found alternate routes through maintenance tunnels. Another blast shook the ship. Through the viewport, they could see the pirate vessels circling like vultures, firing at both ships. We need to reach the auxiliary control room, Red said. We can coordinate our defense from there. Max suddenly stopped and growled, not at any of them, but at a section of wall ahead. Everyone tensed. What's wrong with him? Officer Green asked nervously. Before anyone could answer, a small explosion burst through the wall, and 2 armed pirates in environmental suits stepped through the breach. They raised their weapons, but they weren't prepared for 180 pounds of protective St. Bernard. Max didn't attack. He didn't need to. His deep bark echoing in the confined space was enough to startle the pirates, making them stumble backward. In that moment of confusion, Red's security team easily overwhelmed them. Good boy, Max, Dr. Smith praised, while the dog wagged his tail, already back to his friendly self. They finally reached the auxiliary control room, where Red's crew quickly took their stations. The situation was dire. The pirates had managed to disable the main weapons on both ships. Wait, Tom said, watching Max. The dog was pawing at a maintenance hatch. He wants to show us something else. Through the hatch, Max led them to an engineering access way. There, they found several crew members trapped by debris, including the ship's chief engineer. The backup weapons systems, the engineer said once they'd freed him. I can get them online, but I need to manually reset the power couplings on both ships. The space between the ships is too hot with pirate fire, Red stated. We'd never get a shuttle across. Tom looked at the engineer. But what about the emergency repair tethers, the magnetic guide cables? Red's facial spines lifted in understanding. They're too small for my people to traverse, but maybe. Everyone looked at Max, who sat there with his therapy vest still on, tail wagging. He can do it, Dr. Smith said firmly. Max can carry the reset tools across the tether line. He's done similar tasks in rescue training. Commander Red looked at the St. Bernard, the creature he'd originally thought was a weapon, who had instead proven to be so much more. Will he understand the importance of this mission? Max, Tom said seriously, kneeling beside his dog. "We need your help, boy. Think you're up for a spacewalk?" Max's reply was a determined bark as Dr. Smith began fitting him with a specially modified spacesuit from their animal rescue gear. The beast they had feared might destroy them was now their best hope for survival. In the airlock chamber, Dr. Smith made final adjustments to Max's specialized spacesuit. The St. Bernard stood patiently as she checked every seal and connection. His therapy vest had been replaced with a hardened external shell designed for emergency animal rescues in space. "The magnetic boots will keep him anchored to the guide cable," she explained to Commander Red. "And the suit's auto-return thrusters will activate if he somehow loses contact." "But how can you be sure he'll understand what to do?" Red asked, watching the dog with concern. Tom attached a small bag of tools to Max's suit harness. "Show them, Max, just like in training. Find your friend." Max's ears perked up at the familiar command. Through the airlock window, they could see Engineer Gray waiting on the alien warship, visible in his bright spacesuit and waving a distinctive bright orange marker, just like the ones used in rescue training. "He'll follow the visual target," Tom explained. "His breed was originally trained for rescue work in dangerous conditions. This is just a different kind of rescue mission." Another explosion rocked both ships. The pirates were getting closer, their weapons chewing through the remaining shields. "We're out of time," Red announced. "If Max is going to do this, it must be now." Dr. Smith gave Max one final pat. "Remember, boy, just like training. Find your friend." The airlock cycle began. Max stood calmly as the atmosphere vented, his specially designed suit maintaining pressure. When the outer door opened, there was no hesitation. Max stepped forward onto the magnetic guide cable, his specialized boots keeping him secured. Everyone watched through the windows as the huge dog began making his way across the gap between ships. His movements were deliberate and careful, each step tested before putting his full weight down. "Remarkable," Red breathed. "The level of trust between your species." "It goes both ways," Tom said quietly. "We trust Max, and he trusts that we wouldn't ask him to do anything too dangerous." Halfway across, one of the pirate ships swept past, its engines creating turbulence along the cable. Max crouched low, holding position until the disruption passed, then continued forward with the same careful determination. "Look at that discipline," Officer Green said with admiration. "No panic, no hesitation." Through the comm system, they heard cheering as Max reached the other ship. Engineer Gray quickly retrieved the tool bag and got to work on the weapon systems while Max stood guard, just as he'd been trained to do during rescue operations. "Power couplings reset," Gray announced minutes later. "But we have another problem. The manual override to activate the system is damaged. We need to route through the secondary chamber." "That's on the other side of the ship," Red said. "You'll never make it in time with all the hull breaches." "Max can lead the way," Tom suggested. "He can smell radiation leaks and depressurize sections before they become dangerous. It's part of his space rescue training." Red looked at the human captain with new understanding. "You really do train your companions for everything, don't you?" They watched through the ship's linked camera systems as Max guided Engineer Gray through the damaged warship, avoiding dangerous areas and finding safe passages. When they encountered blocked corridors, Max remembered alternative routes from studying the ship's layout earlier. Finally, they'd reached the secondary chamber. The weapons systems came online just as the pirates moved in for what they thought would be their final attack. "All weapons functioning," Red's weapons officer reported with glee. "Those pirates are about to learn why you don't attack ships in our territory." The pirate vessels, suddenly facing two ships with fully operational weapons, quickly retreated into hyperspace. Later, as Max rode the guide cable back to the research vessel, Commander Red turned to Captain Tom. "I must apologize," he said formally. "We saw your companion as a potential weapon, a beast to be feared. Instead, he has shown us that true strength lies not in the ability to cause harm, but in the willingness to help others." Tom smiled as Max returned to the airlock, tail wagging despite his spacesuit. That's the thing about dogs, Commander. They remind us that being powerful doesn't mean you can't also be kind. Max shook himself as the airlock repressurized, somehow managing to spatter a bit of drool on the inside of his spacesuit's helmet. Both humans and aliens laughed together, united in their appreciation of one very special dog. 1 week after the pirate attack, the research vessel Hope and Commander Red's warship docked at Central Station, a bustling spaceport where ships from various species gathered for trade and diplomacy. In the station's main conference room, Captain Tom and Commander Red stood before the Galactic Council, with Max sitting proudly between them. The St. Bernard's therapy vest had been decorated with a new patch, one showing both human and alien symbols for bravery. "So you're telling us," the council leader said, looking down at their report, "that this Earth creature helped save both ships." "More than that." Commander Red stepped forward. "This dog has taught us an important lesson about assumptions and cooperation." Max wagged his tail at the mention of his species, causing several council members to lean forward with interest. None of them had seen an Earth dog before. "Our initial scans showed us a powerful predator," Red continued. "We saw teeth, muscle, and potential for violence. What we failed to see was intelligence, loyalty, and the capacity for gentle service." Tom smiled as Max nudged Red's hand, asking for attention. The alien commander, now completely comfortable with the dog, automatically reached down to scratch behind Max's ears. "Humanity's greatest strength," Red addressed the council, "isn't their technology or their adaptability. It's their ability to forge genuine bonds with other species. They don't seek to dominate. They seek to understand, to befriend, to create partnerships." One of the council members, a floating crystalline being, chimed in. "But surely this is just one specialized creature." "That's what I thought too," Red admitted. "But aboard their ship, I saw records of countless such relationships. Horses that carry them across land, birds that guide their ships, small felines that comfort their sick, massive elephants that help them build. They have turned potential adversaries into steadfast allies." As if to demonstrate, Max got up and walked to the crystalline council member, who had been emanating anxiety signals that only the dog could sense. Max sat gently beside them, offering his calm presence. The crystal beam's glow shifted from anxious purple to peaceful blue. "Remarkable," they chimed. "In light of these events," Commander Red announced, "I am proposing a new initiative. A joint program between our species, using Earth's animal companions to help with everything from space rescue operations to diplomatic relations." The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Max, having done his part to soothe the crystalline being, returned to his place between Tom and Red. "And you support this, Captain?" the council leader asked. "Absolutely," Tom replied. "Max has already shown us that space doesn't have to be a barrier to the human-animal bond. And if he can help break down barriers between species, even better." The council voted unanimously to approve the initiative. As they filed out of the chamber, beings from various species stopped to greet Max, each experiencing their own moment of understanding as they interacted with him. Later, in the station's observation deck, Commander Red stood with Captain Tom, watching ships come and go against the backdrop of stars. Max lay at their feet, occasionally thumping his tail when station children of various species would run by and wave at him. "You know," Red said thoughtfully, "my species has always prided itself on being advanced, civilized. We thought taming our violent instincts meant suppressing them completely. But Max has shown us there's another way." "Oh?" Tom asked, curious. "Strength controlled by kindness, power guided by compassion. The ability to be both powerful and gentle." Red looked down at Max. "Your beast turned out to be one of the best teachers we've ever had." Max looked up at them with his typical happy expression, a string of drool hanging from his mouth. A passing alien child giggled at the sight, and Max's tail thumped against the floor in response. "Just think," Tom said with a smile. All of this because you thought we were smuggling some terrible monster. We were right about one thing, Rhett replied, watching Max charm yet another group of station residents. You humans did bring a powerful beast into our territory. We just didn't understand that the most powerful creatures can also be the kindest. Max woofed softly in agreement, spreading a little more drool and a lot more joy across the galaxy. The end.